need to give the thumbs up to the camera. Good afternoon and welcome to the Administration, Finance, Recreation and Parks, Public Safety and Public Works Committee meeting for March 12, 2019. The purpose of the committee meetings are for the city departments to pass along information to the city council and discuss initiatives listed on the published agenda. By ordinance, the committee consists of the mayor, members of the city council, and the city administrator. The ordinance mandates the city administrator as the chair of the committee meetings. By ordinance, the committee makes no formal decision on committee matters. Rather, items are voted to move to a mayor and council meeting for consideration and vote, or staff receives guidance from the committee regarding a matter. This is a public meeting, but not a public hearing. Therefore, while the meeting is open to the public, we do not take public comments or questions during the committee meetings. Public comments or questions are received at the regular city council meetings held at 7 p.m. in the city council chambers on the second and fourth Monday of each month. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the Administration, Finance, Recreation, and Parks Committee meeting for February 12th, 2019. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Tizer.
Nope.
Who was that? Councilmember Judy.
Councilmember Judy.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Henry. Any discussion or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have nothing on public safety or fire. We'll move to public safety. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong agenda here. Administration, number 2, consideration to create a Director of Administrative Services position and reorganize the Deputy City Administrator and Human Resources Director. Also to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $86,108 plus benefits. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Let me start off by saying that second part of that, the approve the budget amendment for 86,108, was just a form that I was typing in and not thinking about it. I'm not asking for a budget amendment right now. What I do want to do is talk about what this item is. We're looking to try to do some internal reorganization. I say we, the administration, Gary, myself, Jim Harner, and HR. We've got needs that we've learned that trying to do new initiatives, trying to change the way we do business. And right now, our city administrator is trying to be strategic and get some new things going, but his deputy administrator, which is me, is also a full-time department director. As the ordinance points out, the deputy city administrator is the director of the administration department. The administration department is made up of 8 different divisions and takes up quite a bit of my time. And as such, also in looking at how we're organized, the administration department doesn't have a deputy department director, so I don't even have anybody to put other things on in trying to support Gary and some of the initiatives. So we've looked at how we could try to reorganize this somehow, move the deputy city administrator into a position more of some department oversight, some program oversight, some new initiative oversight to come alongside and work with our administrator. We also would like to have our HR director at a department director level. So in this reorganization, a director of administrative services would be formed, created, and that position would also be the HR director, so that we would have the HR director at a department director level when that person is dealing with other departments and things that are going on in there. That would create some movement within the HR department. He can handle the day-to-day there as long as we've got a deputy type person down in the HR to run the day-to-day, and we have that through some reorganizations. So the $86,000 that you see, the $86,108, which I put in as a budget amendment and don't need a budget amendment right now, that's the total impact of this reorg. So for $86,000, we can reassign the deputy city administrator to do some city tasks. We can reassign the HR director to a department director level over the administrative services, and I think be a lot more efficient, a lot more work accomplished for that much money. We'd like to get your approval to start looking at that and moving forward with that. We would like to run it through in next year's budget. I just don't want it to get lost in next year's budget. I think it's a very important move for us strategically in our city administration and in our department, too strategic to just run into the budget without some explanation beforehand. So we would like to continue to develop this. There's some ordinance changes we'd have to do. There's some tweaking to the job descriptions that we would have to do before we could make this move anyway. It could be ready by July 1. If there's, if you accept us in doing this, then it could be ready by July 1, or at least be ready to go through the budget process. I still think it needs to go in there. It does need to be vetted against other projects. When you look at things, and we've learned this in the past, when you look at things individually, they look really strong. And this is absolutely a great thing to do with $86,000. But there's other things that might be really great too, which why it needs to compete in the process, and we do understand that. So my discussion tonight is, here's what we're trying to do. Is there questions that you have? Is there guidance that you may want to try to give as we try to move forward and put this into the budget process?
And if you recall, we brought this through the last year's budget. It had limited discussion on it, so we wanted to make sure that we started early to have this discussion in committee, and just, whatever issues we need to resolve and talk about it. So the floor is open.
So my opinion on this is I definitely think something needs to be done. I think Gary and the size of the city, reaching 100,000 people, should have a deputy city administrator. What that organization looks like, I don't know. And I'm hoping the strategic plan that we're getting ready to go through would tell us that. Unfortunately, the strategic plan would not be done in time for budget season, I believe. So I think that puts us at a bit of a disadvantage looking at where we're going. But I really would like to see the findings of that and the organization as we are to our charter and as we are within City Hall to make a determination on it. That's just my initial thought. I could move to look at it a little sooner if there was some more details and we had some more discussions. But I definitely agree something needs to be done as we grow as a city and the more projects and everything and staff and everything that comes in underneath the city administrator position.
You want to talk a little bit about the organizational analysis we've got coming up?
I've just finished a draft scope of work for an organizational analysis, just what you're talking about in both how we're organized and what the culture of our structure is. So they're going to be looking at two things. They're going to be looking at the overall chart, how each position is laid out, who's reporting to who, responsible for what. I also want to look at any kind of efficiencies. Are we doing double service on some things? Can it be moved around differently? And then also from a cultural standpoint, what the culture of the city is as far as how we work together, what teams are in place, and things like that. So I've got that draft, just finished that up Friday, getting ready to go out for some bids on that. So I'm hoping by the first part of May we're going to be going out for a contract to get that started.
Would we have that possibly by, we approved the budget in June, no way.
I doubt it'd be back by June, because it probably won't, by the time it clears through purchasing and all, it'll be, if I can have a contract around the 1st of May is what I'm looking for. So July or August maybe mid-year.
And the concerns, we have a lot of stuff coming up, and I'm tied obviously directly into the strategic plan we're getting ready to do. I feel a little bit like I'm juggling chainsaws, and eventually one of them is going to get dropped. So I feel a sense of urgency in having to open up my capacity through my office, and this is one way to do it. Again, I don't know what this organizational analysis is going to come back with. I wish I had that data to put behind this recommendation. I just don't have that right now. But we can continue. We don't have to do anything tonight. We just want to bring this up, and we'll continue to have this discussion with the mayor and you all. And
but I'm very, as Councilman Judy said, I'm very supportive at our size that there should be, it seems like there should be that deputy city administrator. if for no other reason than to back you up. You know.
And if I'm down and out, you have somebody that's,
Yeah, I mean, if you're hit by a MARTA bus or something.
I am the deputy city administrator,
No,
by the way.
you mean
but
in
I
charge
have
of
other
just
duties.
this. You've
Yeah,
got
right.
I have
another
other
job.
duties. Yeah,
No,
correct.
who just does that?
Yeah,
Let me just, sorry.
that's what I meant when I said
Yeah.
it too, sorry.
So I don't think,
Yes.
you know,
But I'm also
how you
department
organize
head. That's
underneath
the problem.
that,
Right.
I couldn't tell you, but I'm glad you're bringing it up. I'm glad you're gonna work through it.
okay.
We'll continue to work forward and get the organizational study going and all that also.
Good enough. Okay. All right, any further questions or discussions on that? Okay, we'll move on to number 3, discussion of emergency IT equipment procurement. Mr. Fisher.
So my items only get easier. So as you all know, just for some background for the committee, on January 23rd, our technology system, our computers went down. For lack of a better way to put it, we were completely got down for 4 days. On Friday, the third day, we started reaching out for help from the outside world. We talked with Dell. Dell didn't do us any good. We talked to HP and told them we needed somebody on the ground because we were completely down. And they got us somebody here. Serene IT is the name of the company. And throughout the day on Saturday until Saturday night, they got the systems back up and running. They got them back up and running very well for right now. But through their analysis of our systems and what we have, and that was an emergency, obviously, to get everything back up is why we brought them in. Through their analysis of what we have, our equipment is dated over the years. Some things a couple years old, some things as many as 10 years old. So they don't all communicate well together anymore, depending on when it was put in and what kind of equipment it was. They've brought our system back up. Their input back to us is, you're running really good right now on really old equipment. We need to get that stuff replaced, and you need to do that now. So we've been working I've been working through that process with them as an emergency purchase because I do not want it to go down again. We were totally down. That affects every department, every process that we deal with in this city now is IT related. So they took a couple of weeks. They got us a design for what we can replace this computer system with. My direction to them was, whatever we put in there, I want it to be the best system we can get for 2019. I don't want the city to have a decent system anymore. I don't want to have a good system. I want to have the best system I can get for 2019. That's all I know about it. So they came back with the system. The system itself, total purchase price for this system and for the upgrades we need on the fiber ring for the system to move the data around is right at $1 million, $1,530,000. $1,530,000, 1,000,530. Not 1,500,000. $1,530,000. That gets us, in this vendor's mind, that gets us the best system that we can get in 2019 to be able to run the work that we're running and have it reliable, have it fail-safe, have it to be able to change over and to not have any of that data lost. So I've kept that emergency process open. In my mind, there's a 2-part emergency. We had to get back up and running, and now the emergency to close it out is I want to get something to replace that equipment so we stay running. So that's where we're at tonight. I wanted to bring this to you as an update, but also want to bring it to you as, is there any input? Because I know this is a very interesting topic. It's $1 million, so it's a very important topic, but it's also our computer system. And it needs to have a solution, and in my opinion, a very quick solution. And with that, I'll open it up.
A couple other things. When they came in, we're not running on their equipment right now. I thought we were. They're not. They came in and got us back up on our own equipment. So right now we're stable, but we don't know, day to day what's going to happen. So there's a sense of urgency, obviously, with the emergency purchase. In my mind, if we decided to go out to bid on this and didn't do the emergency, we're going to get whatever vendors respond. We're going to get 5 different proposals that are probably going to be all successful in their own right, but I don't know if we have the luxury to have that. If I have the assistant city administrator, the city attorney, and the finance director telling me, yes, this is an emergency, then of course I'm going to consider it an emergency. But, the $1 million, I have a concern with that. And I have a hard time pulling the trigger on that without getting the council's input. I can pull the trigger on it. I want to know your thoughts. And I want to work this out and make sure that we leave here with everybody on the same page and understanding how we're going to move forward.
So I'm fully supportive of spending what it takes to bring our systems up to the standards they need to be to operate effectively in 2019, 2020, on forward. If that's $1 million, if that's $1.5 million, we just need to do it right. And I'm also fully supportive of every year, right? There's got to be something in the budget to replace any kind of equipment that's going to go out of its serviceable life. Mm-hmm. So we should never have things in our server room that are outside of that criteria.
Agreed.
Okay, and I would, certainly for the rest of my term here, be supportive of spending that kind of money each year, so we don't get into a situation that like we're in today. Mm-hmm. What I'm struggling with, and my input to the team is, we've seen one technological solution and no others, and whether it's bid or not bid or however we phrase it, I just feel like we should have an alternate view or two of what the technology should look like. Once we sign into a product, for example, a particular hardware-software combination, we're kind of there for a long, long time. I understand the issues. Frankly, I've been there, right, where I don't know when the system's going to go down again and how stable I am or am not. But that's my input. Is I think having a view of some alternative. Is there a different technological alternative? Should we, is this the best version of equipment, not just hardware but software, operating, so the whole stack,
right,
as to how it should look. And that's my concern, is that we've seen one version. I think we ought to see at least another.
And I would love for us to be competitive, but of course with that goes the risk that we go down tomorrow,
sure,
this company's gone and we're back to where we were a month or two ago with
I can do that,
data loss.
But that's all time. And the idea is, in my mind, well, not in my mind, the direction I've been given, this was an emergency. I need to get it in there. So there is a luxury of doing competitive bids, and if we want to do that, it's up and running today. But I can't tell you it's going to be up and running next week, and I'm responsible for it.
I'm not sure I said competitive bids. I think what I was saying is a view of alternate technologies. Is this the best version of solution for us? And I don't know inside the city world, procurement, et cetera, what that really entails doing. But I would see, I'm not suggesting we take months to do it. I'm suggesting, could this be done, much quicker than that?
Maurice, can you come up and we'll put you on the spot and get your opinion on this?
So the analysis that we're doing was from 319.
Just come on up and have a seat, man.
Talking to the green dot.
So Serena IT, basically, just so you know the background, they travel the world. They do technology for that they use is with cruise lines and oil rigs, and we did an analysis based on what the latest technology is. And came up with hyper-converged technology, which means you don't have to rely on a lot of software. Right? So it's done on the hardware built in, and we're looking at what it would cost to manage it from an IT perspective on our staff and the ease of use. And it's basically the technology that they're giving us, and we're working with them is like an Amazon experience. It allows us to basically use a bleeding edge technology, for the price that they're giving us. It's a reasonable, really reasonable price. And the goal was to have our environment to have what we call active-active, where we have 2 sites always on, 2 circuits always on, and we didn't have any failover issues at all. So that was a goal. We did have 2 other technology solutions that we did present it to the different department heads, and we kind of got their critical requirements, key critical requirements to each department and what they needed. And so based on that analysis, we said that this would be the best technology that would take us into, into the future. And considering the things that we have in mind, like we don't know if we're going to do smart cities, Internet of Things, rec and parks, either of those are different technologies. So that will allow us to leverage the different technologies and put us in place to use the technology. So it is the bleeding edge, not bleeding, but leading edge, carry us into today what is Amazon, banking. It's the same technology that we have.
It's the same architecture, right?
Right. It's the same
Yeah,
architecture.
I don't want to question the vendor or I think the architecture, all that kind of stuff. I just question, different vendors would have potentially different selections of what things they would choose.
And just to be clear, you're absolutely right. But the technology there to get you where you need to go is the same thing. You just have different architects that are actually going to pull from the same technology. There's only a few players out there that are in the space that have the hardware, that have the software, that are at enterprise level. So you can get company A, company B. They're going to almost, I'm not going to say offer you the same thing, but each architect and each company has their own item that they like better. Right. So the technology out there is only a few types of technology that can deliver that quality of service. And then that's why we picked the bleeding edge, proven in the demonstration. We showed the companies that are using it and the different city government agencies that are using it. From federal to all the way down to city government to banking to oil corporations to retailing. So based on that, it's the technology that's leading edge that would serve us the best and give us that longevity to kind of deliver the quality of service that we do. Because ultimately, I think we also need to rethink our mind and reframe our mind. We host everything for our citizens. We host RecTrack. We host their finances for billing and utility billing. So we're a hosting company, really. We are, and we base that on that too, and based on what it would take to be delivering a hosting company and deliver those quality of services. So everything was considered. We had each department head speak to it and talk about what they would like to see. Feel confident in that technology,
So my only concern here, and again, we'll just have to lean on you and folks that know technology a lot better than I Georgia Tech degree, but I can do a website, but that's about it. I don't have any idea about the servers and this, that, and the other. But
Sure.
We're talking here and later in the meeting about a 911 center and hard 911 center, and you just talked about smart cities, and we talked about different things. What I don't want to do, or what I'd like to not see, is us putting $1 million into something that isn't, that's going to cost us more in the long run. So we get into this and we're locked into HP equipment, and then down the road we're looking at a hard 911 center. We're going to have to move stuff there, and it's going to be more expensive because we did this, or we're looking at smart cities, or we're looking to go. I mean, cause I believe if you ask the question, if we didn't have any of the stuff we had downstairs, or we didn't have this ring outside, would we still be doing the same thing? And the answer was probably not. We'd probably be going to a data center and hosting things and this, that, and the other. So if we're moving that direction, is there a way to get us stable and cheaper that allows us to pivot quicker when we do decide what we're going to do after the strategic plan and all these different things that are going to tell us where we're going to go technologically? So if you're telling me we don't have a choice right now, and this is emergency, and this is what we got to do, this is what we got to do. I mean, but if not, and we're able to put something in place where we can get past the strategic plan, we can have, because we're going to everything's changing so fast, we're going to have different opportunities after the strategic plan. I just want to make sure we don't preclude ourselves or cost ourselves extra money by putting something in place for $1 million in an emergency situation. But if it's an emergency, it's an emergency. So that's kind of where I am.
Let me tell you why it's an emergency. So a day-to-day IT operation, we have to keep the systems up and up to date to firmware, software, Windows servers. We have to make sure that's up, so vulnerabilities, so nobody compromises our network. But we're taking 911 down for a weekend to do that, and that's life. I mean, there is no price on somebody's life. I mean, for me, when I go to bed, I don't feel good about being in an environment. I'm not used to that. I'm used to working in a data center where we're never down. I'm talking Amazon, NSA. I've been in all of that environment, and that's what I'm used to. So to be in an environment where we're not getting that quality of service, where we're bringing 911 down, they got to go to paper. I mean, that doesn't look good. For a city our size, there's 100,000 people compared to my counterparts that I talk to. They don't even blink an eye on it. I mean, they're doing much more than what we're doing. So I'm just saying, $1 million is a drop in the bucket to the size of what we are in the sense of what we can deliver. It's really a good, it's emergency because it's 911. It's emergency because we don't have the opportunity to maintain the systems on the fly. So it gives us a chance to maintain it and not take
this system.
I understand. I'm just saying, is it the best $1 million we could spend with looking toward the future?
Absolutely. I would say absolutely, yes. I'm 100% confident in it, and 100% confident. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't 100% confident in that.
It is that reason alone, the public safety aspect. And I think, with Melissa here, can you describe to the council what happens when, you got to come up to the microphone. Just let us know what happens when the system goes down.
Oh, thank you. So to put it in perspective, for this particular weekend, one of the times it had gone down, we were in the middle of providing CPR instructions on a cardiac arrest call.
You're talking about when it went down a couple months ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, in January. And granted, we have some great 911 professionals in the center, but they quickly grab the protocol cards, but you're still talking that momentary shock of what just happened to my protocol screen. And we have officer safety issues when we don't have the Georgia Crime Information Center available to us, and if somebody's out on a traffic stop and they have a warrant on this individual.
So MDTs are down.
Yes. So
phones are down. All of your network is down.
The non-emergency department emergency lines, phone lines are down. We do always stay connected with 911 phone lines, so that's a good thing. We're still able to answer people's emergencies. But the manner in which we process those calls are down. And so that takes time, which means, we're operating on paper, we're looking up through flip chart protocol cards, and all that takes time to get responders to your emergency.
I mean, it is absolutely a tough call to make, and I would love for us to be able to compete this. That is my concern. We're still on our system that we had when it went down. So if we were to, and we could go down in the next 5 minutes.
Y'all are the experts in this. And if you say this is the best $1 million we can spend, then I know we're gonna have to spend the money. I just want to make sure we're spending.
No, I understand your concern, and
from a financial standpoint, we have looked at the lease option. Looking at doing something on a 5-year, because as you had mentioned, I don't want to see equipment that's old anymore. And we'll be putting together a strategic plan for the IT. We've talked about this.
We're doing that we'll do that next year.
And that plan is going to talk about refresh of equipment and what we have. A 5-year lease will work just about right for this equipment, because within that 5 years, there's a couple of things we can do. Councilmember Judy commented about what the future brings. 5 years from now, it can all change again. But we're going to be more nimble to be able to do that. I'm not going to have 10-year-old equipment anymore. 5 years from now, when something comes up and that technology changes, we change with the services we're providing, we have an opportunity to look at it then and see where we're at. So, because we'll go into another lease at that time for whatever we're doing for the next 5 years. So that's kind of the thoughts at this point. This gets us up. This tells us it's the best that we need to get now. We can lease that now. We'll have 5 years on this, As things develop, I don't know what the technology will be 5 years from now. It may be this might be a boat anchor. But whatever it is, we're going to be nimble enough to go to whatever that next thing is in the 5 years and be able to continue on. What I want to do is every year look at my system and say, the city of Roswell has the best IT system it can have. I don't care if that's this year, next year, or 5 years from now. It still needs to be the best system. And if it's not, we're going to be working to get it the best system.
You know, again, just the concern is if we don't do this, data loss, safety issues, and just economic loss from time down. You guys all realize
we're
that.
behind the 8 ball. We're behind the 8 ball because we have not invested in our infrastructure for years and years and years. And I think the lesson to be learned is that we need to do it on a regular basis. We need to get up and running. We can't have this system go down. When ours went down, my first reaction was, what the heck? This doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. It's not supposed to happen in 2019.
So I think the lesson to be learned is that we need to invest in our infrastructure on a regular basis, and we can't go for 10, 15 years without doing that. It's just a travesty. Do you need anything from us tonight?
We don't need a vote. I mean, I would like us to all come to a consensus on this, and if they're I don't want anybody leaving with any feelings that they weren't heard. So I need to know.
I think the active structure, that the whole concept is great. I think that's the right strategy. I don't want to delay it. I just like another. I'm concerned about only having one vendor see it.
You want a second opinion?
I think that might be an easy way to say it.
And who do you want to review that second opinion? Our IT professionals?
I think staff and the IT professionals should see it. I understand the.
We'd have to hire somebody to come in and do a second opinion because this is our opinion.
We call.
No. I'm not saying a second opinion of this structure. I'm saying a second opinion of what would it.
There. I think so. My question from a procurement process is, I have a process where I can go out and get information from people. That's got to be a fair process. I've got to do that for everybody. So I can't call ABC Technology and say, we want you to look at what our system is today and give me your opinion on what the best equipment would be for it, unless I open up for everybody and go through the process. What I have today I got because I had an emergency and we didn't seek these people out. We called HP, who is our provider, and said, we need somebody on the ground to get us going again. They sent us this recovery team because they knew they were local in the North Metro area. So that's how we got them. And I'm just taking this emergency from where we've started. I'm trying to finish it now. I just can't, I don't know how I can just go ask a company to give me your opinion on our system. It's just...
And I'll echo what Michael's saying. There is no way by ordinance to do what you're suggesting. You have to change the ordinance to get there. We're in an emergency. We have to go by the emergency provision or the ordinary purchasing one. We can't go the middle way without you all passing a new ordinance. So in the future, you can do that. But right now, you got to bite the bullet, pay the $1 million, then you can go forward and you can fix however you think the purchasing thing needs to be fixed. But you don't have that option today.
So if there was an emergency and you wanted to ask two people for their solution to the emergency, you can't do that?
Or you do what they did. You figure out a way to get whoever is in there to come and get it. But because they've already identified it, they've got the one, there isn't a way that you take it out to bid unless you just do the whole bid process.
Right. I wasn't talking about bidding. I'm talking about...
I understand what you just said. Listen to what I'm saying. What I'm telling you is the way council has set the ordinance, you only have two choices. You don't have the third choice that you would like. It doesn't exist.
So help me understand what Mr. Tizer is explaining. Help me understand how it's illegal, because I'm not hearing suggestion of getting the bid. I'm hearing kind of asking a question, getting the information. So help me understand how that's illegal.
Because you've got an emergency. You've already identified the process to get it done under emergency. It's either an emergency or it's not. So if you declare that it's not an emergency, here's what you risk. As Maurice has said, you risk going down. You risk 911 going down. You risk increased liability for the city for happenings. You risk council and mayor being personally liable in that situation because you were aware an emergency existed and you didn't act on that. That's one of the parameters that's out there. What has been set up is that the city administrator, in conjunction with the city attorney and the mayor, make the determination that the emergency exists and they figure out how they solve it. Then they inform council of it, and then council takes steps in the future to get ways to do it, because every situation is going to be different. I mean, when this was written, the IT wasn't even thought of. They were just thinking of when the roof collapses at the wrap stick, and that's an emergency, you got to get fixed, got to get it back up. That's what it contemplated. And even with that, you got the people who built it, the people who, you had one other one who had an involvement with it, and those are the people to get it done the quickest.
Had they not, first let me answer your question a little bit differently. So if I wanted to go out and get somebody to come in and do an analysis of the technology and look and see what would work out best, I don't have a way to identify somebody. If I identify you, then this vendor's going to get mad because I didn't identify them. So our policy allows us to go out for things like that. We have to open that up, advertise that, open that up. We can shorten that some, but there's processes that we take. Unless it's an emergency where we can move forward with getting somebody in there to fix it. So in the case of that Saturday when these guys were here and bringing that system up, had it not come up, this system would be in there today. Because I would have said Saturday night when it didn't work, this didn't work, I got to have something in here working Monday, and this is what well, they wouldn't be mid-ready to bring it in Monday. This is what would be in there right now. The fact is we've had a little bit of time to get it designed, and we wanted to bring it here to you tonight.
Quick question, Michael. You mentioned or you referred to this as a lease, not a purchase. Correct?
Yeah, that's just the financing.
What is the term? Yeah, so what is the term? Is that?
Ryan will get us that. It's about a 2.
It's
It's around a. Yeah, it'll be a 5-year. We won't go more than 5 because the equipment won't be much more than 5 years. So we'll do a 5-year lease. It'll be 2.5% funding. We'll do it through GMA, or we can just buy it. Either one. But I'd rather keep the $1 million. We're going to be paying for IT from now on, so we just lease it at the 2.5%, and just continue doing that.
And I'm right there with you. It's hard for me to grasp this is an emergency because our system's up. But it can go down at any time. So we still have that issue.
So help me understand. So if mayor and council were to have a vote, it ends up being unanimous, and mayor and council votes, go talk to these 2 other companies and see what their suggestion is. Is that breaking the law? Is that something that's
against our purchasing ordinance, yes.
It's against our purchase, and therefore going against our purchasing ordinance during an emergency. Is that something that's unlawful and therefore means this mayor and council will be breaking the law by doing that?
Mayor and council has already established the procedure for the emergency. And, that's what's set out in the code. And that's the one where it says, and that's section 2.3.6. And it lays out what council wanted done. And that's what's being done at this time. You all can change that. You discuss it and have 2 readings. And I'm saying going forward, that's fine. Because you all can say, that's not the best way to handle it. We want to handle it this way. And, what Councilmember Tizer says, you can put that in there. But it's not there now.
Can we put it in an emergency resolution?
Not to change an ordinance.
So what I'm hearing is that the way this is written, you don't have to come to council anyway.
Correct.
This is an emergency. The city administrator, city attorney, and the department head
If this were a
declared this an
$20,000
emergency.
fix, you guys wouldn't hear about it.
So basically, this decision can be made without us. Period.
Correct.
And that's a decision that was made previously by ordinance. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. So since that's the case, and you've declared it an emergency. Legal's declared an emergency, right? And you all said this is the best $1 million and this is what we have to do to get us up, to make sure we don't have any down 911 and this, that, and the other. I don't see any other choice other than just say, I mean, not that it's our decision, other than support what staff says at this point.
And I'm with you.
That's
I
what
have
I
to
gotta
listen to
do.
my team. They're telling me it's emergency, we need to do this now. That's the direction I'm recommending.
The other thing, too, that I've got a secondary concern about is, we've got an ordinance in place that follows emergency procedure. If we're going to start second-guessing our staff every time they have an emergency and changing the rules on them, if I was them, I would be bald because I would have pulled my hair out by now. So we need to make sure our emergency procedures are in place, and then we need to go with that. And if we're going to start second-guessing everything they do in an emergency, I personally don't want to be involved in that.
I wasn't second guessing anybody. I was asked my thoughts and my opinion. I gave my thoughts and my opinion. That's all.
And my opinion is that without a doubt it's an emergency that needs to be fixed. When I hear $1 million price tag, what I'd want to make sure is being illustrated to the residents that we're ultimately accountable to is just knowing all the different paths, the $1 million solution, the $10 million solution, the $500,000 solution, and the different aspects around it, as well as the fact I have concerns around a single provider. I think without a doubt, emergency is different, and it can't be opened up to everyone. But at the same time, I think the ordinance should have included aspects around emergency stuff like IT, which I know did not exist when the ordinance was made, but that really some best-in-class type solutions and providers could and should be solicited. So there's where kind of my concerns are. I think in reality, I shared Mr. Tiser's points. I do absolutely appreciate staff in illustrating how important and crucial this is. That's not lost. I mean, I know we definitely need to solve it, and we need to solve it immediately.
I have a question.
Please.
So I understand too. What do you see as counsel from a technology perspective? How would you want us to rate what is best in class in terms of, do you need a consultant to come in and kind of give an analysis on what we're doing, or how would you want us to kind of quantify what is best in class?
I can't speak for anyone else, but for myself, what I'd say, whether that means that's through an urgent consultant or that's just through staff given some explanations. Okay. Perhaps staff could define best in class means that they are, with HP, for example, they have their own tech, they have their own hardware, they have their own software. Maybe you define there's an aspect around that, there's ratings. So I'd leave it up to, for me personally, I'd leave it up to staff in how they decide to define best in class.
I would say, as you are comfortable that what this is a foundation that's going to take us into the future, meet present needs and go into the future, and that you're providing for the security, the safety, and performance that we need now. To your recommendation that all those things are covered with us at cost effectively.
And understand, being in a position of technology, I love it. So I want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're looking for, what you're expecting from somebody that's on a technology standpoint. What do you see as value? What do you see as value in terms of my position? Understand my position, like she said, like, am I being second guessed? So I need to know what you're looking for to make sure that you're comfortable with the decision we're making. That helps us to understand, they want to make sure that this is in place. So
I think that always on is one of the biggest things, back to back.
Right, sure.
So we'll get you that, and the foundation to build on.
Right, I mean, then definitely this foundation to build on and having a strategic plan and continuing to make investment in the system that you're working with, whether it's continue with a 911 center, security, safety, like that, but also smart cities, transportation, online access for residents and things like that.
Right.
So I just,
This is just infrastructure. This is not applications.
Right, sure, but get the infrastructure.
But we want to make sure we build the capacity
Right, the
to
infrastructure
grow.
support it. Exactly.
And I think that is part of that proposal, yeah. So unless I hear any objection, we're going to move forward on this as an emergency purchase. The second part of this will be, we're going to look at, as a business standpoint, looking at managed services or?
Yeah, there's still a couple of things like what we talked about already is a strategic plan. That's certainly going to be something, we're going to do a formal one of those coming up. We're going to do a full inventory of what is still left that we have. But managed services will be the next thing. That will be bid out because certainly that's not an emergency that we have to have today. But we have changed our organization, as you're well aware already, a little bit in IT. And one of the things that we're all going to look at is some managed solutions to come in and augment what we have already. Our staff is full. There's more monitoring. There's more things that we need to be looking at with our environment, with our network on an ongoing basis. And there are companies that can help us with that and do that. They'll have alerts for our system that when it comes up, they see something happening that's out of the norm that we might not see on here until it's out. So we are going to be augmenting our staff with some managed services. That'll be the next step along with moving to a strategic plan.
Now, that's not part of the emergency,
No,
obviously.
it's not emergency,
So,
but yeah, we are moving forward with that.
Because now to clarify, now the way our procurement policy works and the way our typical practice works is low price is obviously very helpful to win, but low price is not the sole deciding factor.
Well, it depends on what we go out for. If I was going out for a managed services, I would probably go out for an RFP, which would be they would come in and give us proposals where price would be a certain weight, but it wouldn't be everything. If I'm buying a commodity and an item, and I don't care which item, as long as it's an item that'll do these things, that's a bid, and then I take lowest price, and I don't have a choice.
Absolutely.
So most of this stuff would be an RFP.
Yep, sure.
Any additional questions or discussion? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to number 4. Thank you, Maurice. Consideration of a memorandum of understanding with Atlanta Plays It Forward to provide staffing for the 2019 Alive in Roswell event series. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. So this one's a lot less discussion. So Atlanta Plays It Forward, who has been the manager of Alive in Roswell for 2 years, isn't going to be doing it this year. As you all have heard, our staff is going to be taking over the full management of Alive in Roswell. However, there's about 28 laborers, people that work that event every month that have to be organized, that have to be paid, that have to be directed on site. And Atlanta Plays It Forward is available to do that much of what we need rather than they can't do the entire event anymore. And we're transitioning that right now to a city event, and our special events folks are taking that. And I think it's ready to go. It better be. It's next month. But they tell me it's ready to go. But what I need is somebody to manage that labor for us. And we reached out to Atlanta Plays It Forward. They're willing to do that. They would need an MOU in place. They will handle all of the payments to our staff, and they'll do it for a 5% pay to them, which will amount to about $1,800 when we're done, because it's based off of the total amount of the labor. And then that's one thing that we can take off of our plate and not have to work with the labor. I know we have everything handled from special events, but I want it to be a good event, and I want to transition into it. And if we can have somebody manage that labor at least this year, next year we'll see how that goes. I want to manage that event this year and make sure that event goes off like it should. So our request is for a motion to approve the MOU for staffing from Atlanta Plays It Forward.
So I think Atlanta Plays It Forward did a phenomenal job, so I'm definitely very appreciative for everything they've done. I guess just help me understand why you feel our event staff can't help manage these laborers.
Once you get them over there, it's getting them in the right place. It's making sure that when something is going on or there's a complaint, that somebody is being able to deal with that complaint. Our folks from our special events want to focus on the vendors. They want to focus on the people that are there at the event, not necessarily focusing on to make sure that we got the right amount of people, because there's a list of how many police we need, how much transportation, how much cleaning crew we need. So I want to give that list to Atlanta Plays It Forward and say, here, you work to get these folks. Now, certainly they'll be working through our liaisons in the departments, but then once they're over there, we don't have to run around and find all that because our folks will be focusing on the event. So this is just an augmentation from the labor standpoint. Let their organization do that. He's already familiar with them. They all know him already. He knows where they need to go, and he can work that side of it. And our folks can focus on the event itself.
Floor is open.
I've got reservations about it. I explained that to you before. I don't know in the future how we're going to qualify which events are the City of Roswell events, which events are not the City of Roswell events, and as we add more festivals, how does that shake out? So we've got a separate company managing our employees and paying them a different rate than what we're paying our folks and not managing them. We've got over 1,000 employees. I'm not certain why Alive in Roswell is throwing us into a tailspin. I think it's perfectly doable with us, and I'm just not convinced. I can go along with this if it's just for 1 year, but we have to have a permanent solution, and that is not a permanent solution.
Great.
We need to learn how to deal with this if we're going to have more and more events.
Great.
So with that, my preference would either be to edit and pretty much take out the possibility for the two additional years and just have it as 1 year, or not do it. I'd like to discuss one of those two options.
I'm good with the year. I think we could bring this up in the strategic plan as well as because I think the events, as we're going down through the events, is going to be a big part of where we're going in the city, and I think that needs to be a strategic plan and how to run the events. So I would be okay for the year as we go through the strategic plan and figure it out.
Well, and I think the strategic plan for us is, are we going to do these festivals? Are we going to do these events? That's a decision that we all need to make. How those are run and operated, I feel, is a staff function. We as electeds don't need to be running festivals, but I want to make sure that you as staff are looking over the next year, are looking at the permanent solution for this. I would predict that it's just my prediction with my little 8-ball, I predict that with the strategic plan that we are going to say we want to see a lot more festivals and outdoor activities because that's what we've been talking about. But I just want to make sure you all are thinking about how you're going to handle that going forward. And I would, like I said, I'd be okay with 1 year. I want to be assured that you all will be looking at the permanent solution, assuming that we're going to continue to have festivals and events.
I think your 8-ball makes a lot of sense. We are looking at taking on more events. We've had such a transition already with our staff, with looking at some other areas, some film events and things like that. And I think there is a lot of transition going on right now, and this is just the one gorilla that's been hard to deal with. And this solution for this year is good. I agree with you. A permanent solution for this event and other events, instead of it just being unique. If we can do that for this year, we will have more time to look at it and
well, that'd be great. I'd be willing to make a motion to approve this for 1 year going forward with the direction that staff looks at a permanent solution.
So Mayor Henry, to be clear on your motion, so under number 3 where it says term, I imagine that to meet your intention, it would be the term of this MOU shall be for 1 year, period.
Yes.
And then you just strike and maybe renewed by agreement of both parties for 2 additional 1-year terms.
Yes.
So I'd second that motion then.
So motion on the floor to approve for 1 year, and seconded by Councilman Palermo. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that time.
Under finance, no items. Rec and Parks, no items. There should be information in the packets. So we'll move on to the, do you need time? Okay, we're going to take a break to reset. so we are in a couple-minute recess. Safety and Public Works Committee agenda. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the Public Safety and Public Works Committee meeting for February 12, 2019. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Motion approved by Councilmember Judy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wilsey. Any discussion or questions?
Minutes?
Minutes, yes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Public Safety Fire, no action items. Public Safety Police, number 2, consideration to approve an additional $400,000 in funding for the 911 Center Design Project. Chief Duncan and our 911 Director, Ms. Alterio.
Good afternoon. In 2016, we paid $35,000 to Comdex for a study to recommend a new 911 center due to several high-risk areas to our existing 911 facility. In fiscal year 2019, we requested $250,000 for design. In that was cut to $150,000. The build-out is anticipated at $4 to $5 million. Typically, design is about 10 to 15% of that. We are requesting, well, due to that cut, obviously that left us with less. So due to that cut, that left us with less money. And typically, design is about 10 to 50%. Therefore, we're requesting $400,000 more for that build-out design. So therefore, we're requesting an increase in that.
With that, the floor is open.
Is this funding that's outside of the current budget? And if so, where does it come from?
I would recommend, it's not budgeted except for the 150 that you all approved in the approved budget. Additional money I would recommend to come from impact fees. We have money that public safety, designated for public safety, and the 911 center was included as part of the CIE that was submitted to the state.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
For me, it's fairly obvious this is important, and so I would support this motion to approve.
Second.
Motion approved by Councilmember Judy. I missed the second. Was that you, Councilmember Palermo?
Yes.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to Public Works. Item number 3, consideration for the mayor and or city administrator to sign a contract with Engineering Strategies, Inc. for the South Atlanta Street Utility Relocation Project in the amount of $39,800 and to sign a contract agreement, memorandum of understanding with the Georgia Department of Transportation. Mr. Skalski.
Good afternoon. I'd like to ask that this item be deferred. We received some communication from Georgia Department of Transportation that is going to cause us to reconsider some of the terms that are in this item, so we'd like to get those straightened out. It's a little different than what we had anticipated. We'd like to work that out before we bring it back to you.
Motion to defer.
Second.
Okay. Motion to defer by Councilmember Palermo and second by Councilmember Judy. Any further questions or comments? All in favor say aye. Thank you. Item number 4, presentation of video demonstrating set-on instruction for the new curbside recycling collection program. Mr. Skalski.
Sharon, can you right here. So we just wanted you to see the video that was put together from communications. Our communications did a great job, and we received the comments, so I'll let you see it, and then we'll talk about it.
Is this a paid actor?
No, it's Karen's mom. Mother-in-law.
Yeah, really.
So Dan, I feel it's a clever, very explanatory video. I just would have preferred to have seen it before. It was kind of all over the place, so I did see that actually from a number of different neighbors and residents kind of asking about it or making their little, snide remarks. I think it's a great, I think it's a great, well done video. I just would have preferred to have seen it before tonight.
Understood, and
Or I guess I say I did. I would have preferred to have seen it from you before tonight.
totally appreciate that. The one thing that I would say in our limited defense on that is just we were really under the gun to get the video produced, and we were lucky with the break in the weather, and we should have gotten it out to more folks before it went live. The one thing I would mention is it's actually gotten quite a few views through Facebook. Darnisha gave us a report, and it's only been out since Friday. It hasn't hit Nextdoor, although it's been shared quite a bit. 30,000 views on Facebook, 111 comments, I believe. One of those was a clear negative, angry face. All the others were positive.
Yeah, but he's back on board now.
And again, I apologize for not getting it out.
In reality, I felt all the jokes I would hear from different friends and just so many residents, they were actually all pretty positive. It was more of just joking, nothing really angry. It's just I saw it from them, which is where I bring it up.
Thank you, Dan.
That it?
No action requested.
Awesome. We are adjourned.